You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Edward Merced.
Hey, everyone.
So, Edward, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do professionally?
Professionally, I work in law, the law field, but my main passion is being the host and owner to 2 podcast feeds. That's what I love to do.
Just going into the law degree, how did you decide to take a turn into podcasting?
Well, actually, in the beginning of my life, I actually was a musician. I started singing and playing the piano at a young age, but then I fell out of love with it, so I went into music production. And then after that, when I started going into music production, that's when I started to focus more on sounds and microphones, headphones, stuff like that. I just started liking that stuff, and I've always been like a talker. So after college, when I didn't really want to do music anymore, I started going through like odd jobs, and then I found law to be something that I was like really good at. But it wasn't until last year that I actually took a dive and started doing podcasting. I just felt.
What about the law did you find fascinating?
Basically, you can investigate and dive deep into people's problems. It's kind of almost like a puzzle because you have to figure out.
Wouldn't you want to take a psychology route rather than law?
Well, yeah, but with psychology, I would have to go through years of studying, whereas right now in law, it's more along the lines of on the job training. So I don't have to, because because remember, my first love is always music or audio. So the law was actually something that I wanted to do secondary, but the reason why I like it so much is because going back and forth with, let's say an insurance or medical provider or something like that, where they have to give me information. It's better than psychology, because psychology you have to dive deep into someone's psyche.
Yeah, I mean, I went to school for
that's
I went to school for psychology. It was more about kind of deciphering somebody and trying to find the mystery that lies within, especially trying to underlie and trying to figure out what their factors are that contribute to how they have a problem in their life. When it seems like the law is just highlighting something that it's kind of in the same way a little bit. It seems like psychology and law kind of goes hand in hand. Just the routes to get the information is very, very different. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like law, sometimes you're not penetrating someone's psyche. You're just penetrating like a thing. Like,
well, you're outlying usually in law, at least when you're doing. Were you focusing on criminal or civilian cases?
Civilian cases, yeah, civil, not huge.
So,
criminal.
like just insurance fraud type situations, not really.
Yeah, stuff like that, or maybe sometimes auto accidents with commercial insurance liabilities.
Did you not want to dive into criminal law at all? I feel like that one's a little bit more of a trickier route.
It is trickier because when it goes to that route, then you actually have to go to law school, because I mean you have paralegals that can do things within that law field, but that one's more of, you have to know your stuff to get into that field.
So what's your age?
30.
Oh, we're not too far off from each other.
I guess by like 8 years.
By like a young child, but it's different because like I've talked to people like that try and deal with law in a way. It's really, really weird. First of all, for me, the concept of law is kind of already at sketchy grounds, considering that we're following a bunch of rules that some person made up, and that's just what we're supposed to go by and not really question it. But I also see that there's laws for a reason. Obviously, if you speed, you can't do that. You deserve a ticket. But if you rationalize what speed limit is, it was just like, oh, well, 25 seems like the speed you should go here. I'm like, who the fuck decided that? I've made some pretty bad decisions and choices in my life. I've made some pretty hard justifications saying that, I just figured out Michael Jordan wasn't the one with AIDS. It was Magic Johnson. So I lived past 21 years thinking Michael Jordan had AIDS. I'm like, when I started looking at law, I always found a fascination, just like I think a lot of people get into it, with the fact that it's about solving things. I mean, a lot of games I played when I was a kid happened to deal with problem solving, whether it was like pointing out like a detective, like you had to point out like a certain thing, oh, the murder weapon, you know,
Yeah.
those types of things, always found it. And then when I watched CSI, those types of shows that really, really do that job really, really wrong. And the idea that they're all wearing sunglasses at night and they always have some cheesy ass one liner. I honestly thought that's what being a detective was. I was like, oh my God, it's like Sherlock Holmes, the solving stuff. But like, it's,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different. I mean, it's really, really strange to see the intent someone has when it comes to the law. What types of things have you kind of been studying or focused on that you have a fascination with?
You mean inside of the law field or just overall?
Well, overall in law.
Um, well, the things that I'm most fascinated with is the people themselves, because someone can get in a car crash or anything like that, or file a lawsuit against a corporation, but they always seem angry. No one ever seems, and I think it's a part of my personality that maybe that's attractive to me as well. That when someone's angry, I like to calm them down, or not really calm them down, but just try to help them as much as possible.
It will help them problem solve. A lot of what goes on, people, like, especially when you're dealing with like a car accident types of, these are very high stress situations, mostly because you're already being overwhelmed with an inconvenience in a way. I mean, it is a problem, but I think more people take it really, really in the moment and they really, really act out in really some aggressive ways. I mean, have you had any cases where it wasn't an injury, but it was someone freaking out and it seemed like it was going to be like a violence issue?
Yeah, I mean, when you deal with people that go through car crashes on a daily basis, so there's definitely people that I've dealt with, people that weren't in the crash that got crazy, try to get violent, and I've dealt with people that were in the crash that were acting outrageous and trying to get violent. So
Now, are you deciphering which one is who's in the wrong? Or are you usually defending somebody?
it's usually the person who gets hit. That's the person I defend, because the thing most of the time, with with car accident cases, the there's usually, which depending on which state you're in, there's sometimes no fault. And if there's a rule that if you hit someone from behind or anything like that, then the person who hits you is at fault. So it depends from state to state. But usually, yeah, the person who gets hit needs more help than the person who actually did the hitting. And when it comes to actual car insurance, that's when stuff gets really tricky.
That's when someone needs a guiding hand, just like yourself, to be able to kind of help decipher at least the average day person who doesn't understand. Like for me, no, I don't know how to balance a checkbook. I don't even think I'll ever use a checkbook, hopefully. But at the same time, it's rocky territory for me to even try and go into that, especially alone and dealing in a high stress situation. A car accident isn't fun. The first thing you do is you want to get out of the car and make sure the person's okay. But 98% of the time, I would say there's that realization, like you're all kind of driven up, you're ready to get out and beat the shit out of whoever just hit you. I mean, I experienced one not even a week ago. Some person accidentally, I was merging and they didn't slow down. They just kind of kept on going, like, you're not going to merge in front of me. I'm like, I have nowhere else to go. The end of the road is right here unless I get over. And they just hit the backside of my car, and I pulled over, and immediately I'm looking in my rear view like, all right, who is it that just hit me? Fucking first thing I see is Oakley sunglasses. I'm like, oh God, violence. This is going to be violent. So I was already kind of a little bit pissed off, but I got out of the car and the first thing I said was, "Is everybody okay?" And just ignoring the fact that I just could have easily snapped after that. I didn't need it. I was already late for work. And I just says, "Everybody okay?" And a woman gets out of the car. I'm like, well, thank God that didn't get violent. And then I was talking to her. I was like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "I'm fine. Look, my car it's just a scratch. We barely just hit each other at all." And I'm like, "Yeah, here, we'll take a picture of our insurance cards, do this." And then as I'm walking over to my glove box on my passenger side, I see my buddy Jesse. I said, "What's up, Jesse?" He's been on my podcast like not even a month ago.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, man, you just hit my friend." I was like, "Actually, your friend hit me." But I thought that was such a small world coincidence because, a lot of people choose to overreact in moments like that, thinking that their whole life has gone to shit and their whole life goes down a spiral. And in a situation like that, I don't know what to do. I'm hoping that it was an older person that hit my car. If anything, if I get into a car accident, because they're going to tell me, "Well, this is the next step, what you do." I'm totally uneducated in that whole idea of what happens when a car accident is. You don't want it to happen, but it's a factor you have to worry about. I know
Yeah, of
more about,
course.
yeah, I mean, I know more about what to deal with quicksand if that ever occurs, but I don't see a problem where quicksand is going to be available in my life.
Yeah, that goes without saying. That I mean, hold on. There you go. When it comes to being in a car crash, it's actually when when it involves insurance, it's actually the luck of the draw. Because if, let's say, I hit you, right, and let's say on my policy I don't have bodily injury, right? If I don't have that, some of the stuff that you need, like your car being fixed, you would have to come out of pocket. And if you don't have like a certain type, if you don't have a certain, like uninsured motorist policy on your insurance, you know, um, with your insurance company, then you're asked out of money. There's no way nobody can help you.
Well, even talking to you about this, like I said, I'm kind of asking for my own selfish intent too. Like, what are things that people don't know about just getting either in a car accident or in certain cases of dealing with, like, have you ever dealt with a domestic dispute, or I guess that would be considered criminal?
Yeah, that would be considered criminal because you have assault when you do domestic disturbances, uh, like um, like between a man and a husband and his wife. Something happens that completely criminal. That goes out of the civil suit because that somebody could have died or got hurt or anything like that. So then that's bad. That's battery and aggravated assault. So that kind
Would
of delves out of that.
would you deal more with the world, like, let's say, property issues, like somebody's property or type of tree encroaching onto somebody's space? That would be considered a civil dispute.
Yeah, because that would be property damage or maybe just trespassing or something like that. That actually goes into a policy too. That's why people when they get insurance, right? Insurance is it's kind of a funny business because at the start of when you sign up, they'll say, "Do you want A, B, and C?" But in your mind, you're like, "Why would I ever need A, B, and C? Nothing ever happens to me." But then you get you get in an accident, or let's say somebody gets hurt on your property or somebody crashes into your house, and now you have to deal with a whole different monster because it's if you don't have it, then that really inconveniences you. And
Yeah, I always say, like, when someone offers you like a warranty and it's like, "You wanted that 3-year warranty on that?" It's like, honestly, take it. Cause I bought a brand new computer before. I did
yeah,
not take the warranty, and not even a month later, the whole thing crashed on me, and then I had to get a whole new computer. And I was like, shit. The one time I don't take a warranty, and I had a warranty on my TV, and that was good. I got a free TV out of it, a brand new one. They fixed it because there was just a malfunction in the machine.
wait, where did you buy the computer from?
I bought it from like a fucking Walmart. So I
You
guess
should have
if
had a manufacturer warranty on that.
they were like, you need to it's a separate order purchase or something to be able to get a new one, and I didn't even get it. I was like, "Well, you screwed me." Like, I didn't. You didn't screw me. I screwed myself over by not taking that because I always see that as an extra money route, and I'm like, I'm going to be a penny saver. You know what I mean? You don't want to be going out of pocket for things you're never going to think you're ever going to need. But there's a reason why there's home insurance. There's a reason why there's fire insurance. There's a reason why there's health
Yeah.
insurance. There's these things that people consider corrupt when they're out there to help you, but they're obviously not there for you to take control of them and obviously, take every single little thing and try and monopolize it as much as possible. So many people want to do fake insurance claims based on health insurance. Hell, dude. I mean, what types of insurance do you deal with?
It's mostly auto and property.
Have you ever heard of the Halloween candy myth, the one that people were poisoning candy?
Oh, okay. So, well, there was two instances. There
There
was
was two, but I'm talking about the major one, the dad that poisoned his kid, which is the reason why I never got to eat pixie sticks off the middle of the street when I found them, even though they were enclosed.
well, there was that one, but that was only a case by case basis because that guy served time, but he only did
Served
his
time?
kid.
Yeah, because he served no, well, he did his kid. The kid was the only one that ate the candy. Now I podcasted separately on this specific topic only because of the fact that I always thought that this was a big thing. People were putting razor blades, and there's actually been more than two cases. This one, the main one that gets outlined was the guy poisoned his kid over a health insurance claim. He actually tried to get money off of the death of his kid. The problem was he also poisoned other candy to try and make it look like a candy outbreak, and none of the kids ate the other candy. So then they ended up figuring out it was a health insurance claim, and then or life insurance policy. And then the second one, there was a girl that tried heroin because it looked like Fun Dip, and she ended up getting like an overdose. And then there was another one of a woman. Like the reason why you don't accept baked treats out in your neighborhood unless you
Yeah.
know the person, because there was a woman that was putting rat poisoning in a bunch of like these treats because she hated how the college kids used to torment her all year long, just like trash her house and shit, which makes sense, but at the same time, like it's a myth. It's not something that happens every single Halloween. Obviously, there's sick people out there, but like life insurance, what is that like? When someone dies, you get a reimbursement of money depending on how they died if the insurance covered it. Like that seems like a sketchy one in general.
Well, the way life insurance works is, let's say you get a new job and you take out a life insurance policy that says if you die, um, your benefactor gets $50,000. That's pretty much all it is, and it's only there to deal with like funeral expenses, or maybe someone can't pay the bills or something. It's in place for that, basically. That's what it's there for.
So when you're dealing with all these types of things, like especially like a little bit of like just the strict knowledge you kind of have to know about insurance and also dealing with companies and trying to help people out, was it because of all this and all this kind of it seems very, very like tasking, very, very stressful on the mind. Is this when you kind of decided you needed to kind of find a relaxation and that relaxation landed in the podcasting?
No, actually, it's funny. Um, um, the way I got into podcasting was that I used to have a group. It was me and my friends, and we used to do YouTube videos. But then we kind of disbanded, and and then we tried to come back together. Like, let's do this again, but better. I'll take control of it, and we'll go and do it. And I thought the first thing we should do is a podcast because you know no one was comfortable on camera, no one was comfortable doing anything. So I figured, we have conversations with ourselves all the time. We should just record it and then post it. So it was kind of like a itch that needed to be scratched really bad, because I knew that if I just put my mind to it, that I could accomplish this. So after that, I mean, that really didn't go that way. So about like a year later or so, or 2 years later, I figured if I want to actually do podcasting, because I really did want to do podcasting, that I would just have to go into business for myself. So that's when I created my network.
So the Dopeish Network. How did you decide on calling it the Dopeish Network? Because immediately I start reading the Dopeish Network, I'm thinking you're already classifying yourself as dope. But I think you kind of, how did you come across that name?
Well, I made the name up a long time ago because I wanted to come out with a magazine, and I thought a good name would be Dopeish. Now, the way I spelled it before was with, like it wasn't it was with like a dollar sign and like a upside down, like an exclamation point, and I just wanted to make it look cool and just do a magazine based on like real stuff going on in the world, not necessarily like entertainment or anything like that. Just I wanted to cover stories about things in the world that no one was really talking about. But then I was young at that time. I think I came out with that like in 2007. So when I had to do the podcast for myself, I figured what better name than the one that I wanted to use before.
Yeah, and especially if you add network at the end of it, it sounds a little bit more professional too.
Yeah.
If you were
Yeah.
calling it like the Dopeish, then a bunch of people would be like, "Is this a podcast about selling dope?" Trust me, I've gotten some ridiculous classifications for Out of the Blank podcast. They're like, "What does that mean?" You're just like, you talk about blank like in a talk about blank like in a starter pistol. I'm like, whoa, that was a long walk for a short drink of water, buddy. I don't know how your brain related
Yeah,
to that.
exactly.
It's also like the Dopeish podcast. So you talk about things. How did you narrow down? Did you just pick a bunch of stuff you loved and you decided you want to talk about? And because I think a lot of faults with a lot of podcasts is the fact they base it on something like a series or a show, and then when
Yeah.
that show is up, they're really just the next few podcasts are just talking about what are the actors doing now and what are things that they wish they could have saw. It's like they can still keep going, but it's really hard to keep it entertaining, especially 100 episodes after the show has ended.
Yeah, exactly. I know of like Game of Thrones podcasts that they've like episode 300 and the show's over, the books are done. I mean, it's kind of like how are you going to find content for that many episodes? So when I first came up with an idea for a network, at first I just thought of, okay, what's the one thing that I'm very knowledgeable in? And I don't mean like I like talking about it, like I'm very knowledgeable in. Because anybody could just talk about anything. But if you're knowledgeable, then that
Hey,
makes you.
don't knock my podcast. This is all we talk about. Anything.
No, but as I can see with your podcast, you're great at discussion. So I've heard some of your episodes, and you're great at you know talking with other people, which makes a great podcast. That always makes a great podcast.
I appreciate that. I think it's the factor is you have to be willing to learn even if you're wrong, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah,
stick to a certain notion. Like, first of all, if you want to know my stereotypes on the stuff you focus on, hip hop, okay? I
yeah,
like hip hop. I don't like how it's confined to a certain race. I've podcasted with like he would be considered Eminem, but fascinating guy, amazing dude. I mean, wonderful, great talent. And it's hard. It's really hard when you make justifications on things like that. Like, let's just go through the topics you focus on, like hip hop. What about hip hop do you try and talk about? Just new songs that come out, or you talk about like the old historical hip hop?
Well, on our hip hop podcast, me and my friend Noel, which is my co-host, we always used to talk about hip hop in like a kind of like a history lesson meets schooling. So like if let's say they come out with mumble rap and stuff, and it's more like an educational for people that only listen to that type of music, to let people know that there's all kinds of types of hip hop music and everything has a background and a history.
Yeah,
So
the history of hip hop is pretty fucking it's pretty powerful. Only when it comes to the fact like it started with a voice for a group of people that didn't feel like they had a voice. Like same thing podcasting is kind of turned into, if you really want to get sentimental about it, it's giving people a voice, giving a people an outlet to feel like they can express themselves in a way. And
yeah,
like
exactly.
hip hop, I mean, first of all, if you want to talk about the original stuff, like, Run DMC literally talks about how he first heard that music and he had to keep playing it over and over again, the same track, same track. And then he started playing them at different times together and then mixing, matching them and scratching them up and doing all these types of things like a disc jockey would do. And he put these collaborations together. It's about literally, like, I'm pretty sure everybody was moved by the movie Straight Outta Compton. That gave us a very Hollywood view of what rap, first of all, was in general. Mostly for me, educating someone that doesn't really listen to rap that much. But I still know good music and I still know creativity in any form. And hearing like NWA, Express Yourself, I'm pretty sure I was hooked onto the song Boys in the Hood for so long. I remember rolling my windows down in my car and just saying, cruising down the street in my 6'4". Like after the movie, like me and my buddy were the only white guys in there. And I think, especially with that movie and something impactful like that in history, it is hard to not get emotional when you're seeing like Black people being oppressed. But the
Yeah.
main thing that I really liked was I felt comfortable because it was all of us enjoying a moment in history on a movie screen. We were literally watching something happen. Like a lot of stuff might have been added and all that type of stuff, but it was still like the basis of knowledge. And I tell people, like, I know what it's like to be a minority somewhere. At my work, I'm a minority every single day. I work at a hotel and an all Latino staff and all Latino Black staff. I tell them it's not about race. Okay. Anything can be for anybody. It's about who takes the good and true aspect of it. Okay. If you want to consider Black being hip hop, that's not true because there's plenty of white rappers out there too. They just don't get highlighted. I like the old school style of rap. I like the old style where it seemed like it's still music. It's not the form it is now. I understand they adapted to a new audience, but
Yeah.
it's really hard. Even Snoop said it best. He doesn't do that mumble rap shit. Only because I get it. You're working with a new generation. You're adopting to a new thing. It's a new style. It's changing forms. But I'm sensing a lack of creativity when all of your stuff is mainly monetized beats and there's no more lyrical genius to it.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. In this day and age, the average listener is between the ages of 13 to 22, and all they want to listen to is what's being played on the radio stations now that the mumble rap stuff is being played constantly and blasting through your radio. Even if you're not listening to the radio, if you just turn on your car, it'll come on and then you just leave it and you don't change it, and then you just listen to it, then it gets stuck in your head and then you're like, I want to hear that more. And it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It just means that you're acceptable to just liking what's on and popular in
It's all
music
about
today.
trends.
Yeah, it's all about trends. Because at the end of the day, none of that stuff is good. None of that stuff is good. Now, mind you, there could be somebody who likes it, and I applaud you if you like it. That's your own thing. Because even punk rock in its day, people hated it and people liked it. So I'm not knocking the people that love this type of music. Just don't call it hip hop. Just call it what I always call it: alternative rap. That's it.
Why call it alternative rap?
Because it's an alternative to what the actual rap is. Rap is spoken word over music.
It's a way to
Like,
express yourself. It's literally like lyrical poetry, if you think
yeah,
about it.
it's lyrical poetry. But if, let's say, if someone has, they're singing part, let's say they're singing the whole song, right? Then, by definition, that's like an R&B song. Then after that, but they still call it hip hop or rap. So that's why I say alternative rap, because you can stylize it in a rap form, but it's not necessarily, the truance of a hip hop song.
I
So
think
like,
like I come from a music background and my whole everybody's in a band even now, and I'm the only one that didn't follow the path because I didn't have a true aspiration to continue with it. And I think even nowadays, like everyone wants to create a mixtape, everyone wants to do this type of stuff, but no one wants to put an amount of work and effort into it. They just want to be able to say like a into the mic and then expect that to get so popular. I'm like, the whole idea in my mind of rap is the fact that when you're listening to it, you can sense that emotion. One of my least favorite rappers is Atmosphere, the guy that creates those songs. I don't know if you ever heard any of those.
No, I don't think
He's got a
so.
song called The Best Day. And let me tell you something. That's a song you want to play when you're having a shitty day. Because he literally is just rapping about shit that we all know how to relate to. It's about being relatable. Rap is relatable. Rap is something like people that go through the shit, go through bad experiences. It's not about, nowadays it's about having, I got 600 black horses. I got and saying all this shit you have. Thank you for proving I don't have a fucking Lamborghini out in my driveway. I appreciate that. And I appreciate, thank you for highlighting that aspect. But at the same time, when you hear the rap, like we're in the streets going through it, like you hear stuff like that. And then The Best Day, where he's talking about like, the teacher's a joke. He must think I'm a fool. He goes, my wallet. He goes, I'm hungry. I better eat till I find my money. I'm looking for my wallet, but my wallet ain't in my pocket. Can't remember the last time I saw it. Like it's all about like it's rhyming, but it's real shit. It's knowing like, hey, I'm not displaying this character for you to listen to. I'm displaying the real me. When you're literally being a real OG, whatever you want to call it, whatever the kids say these days. But like it's about being relatable. You don't want to you're just playing a fake image. Post Malone, all these types of people that just rap about shit they have. I hear it. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from. It's nice that you have that stuff. I'm great, happy for you. But it's like, where's the experience? I don't have that. I'm having a shitty day. How can I relate to having a million Lamborghinis if I don't own a single one?
Well, I guess with any rap or hip hop artist, like the line you said before, "Cruisin in my 6'4", right? Okay, I can't relate. I don't have a 6'4". I. What if I didn't even have a car at the time? I don't even. How can I relate to that? I think it's more that they're selling a dream than actually reality. And even that, so there's some rappers that story tell about past experiences, and then there's some that rap about things that they want to have. Sometimes they only rap about the things that they have around them, so like beautiful women or lavish cars, because they don't want to actually face the bad side of their life, because to every rapper there's a bad side. I mean, it's
You got to go
every
through some shit to create some some masterful shit too. Like Easy E, first of all, talking about cruising down the street in his 6'4". He never owned a 6'4". He didn't get that until he was famous. Long after that song was already doing well and made him the money. He then eventually bought a 6'4". But you heard that, like what you're saying about a dream. That's true. He dreamt of having that car and he eventually bought
yeah.
it. But I think nowadays with modern rappers, they're already given that. They already have that, and they're just rapping about what they have. They didn't have the start off song. If you hear any of their rough edits, if you hear any of the songs before they became popular, it was normal. It was rap. And then they could become so monetized and studioized because the executive producer or whatever you want to say says, hey, we like your work, but we want you to do it like this. And they let that happen. They let them get in the mix, which does get them the fame and the money. But the fact is, it's not yours anymore.
Well, I mean, if you go by the sound that's current, then it's not anyone's then, because if you don't want to stand out, then why are you really making music? You have to be who you are instead of who's everybody trying to make you into. And I think most rappers today, they follow the line down a hallway to the door on the left, and they close it, and they don't really do anything else. And it's true, they talk about what they have, but at the same time, if you follow certain artists, you can see how they've turned from, because it happens all the time. All the rappers, they always talk about what they want, and when they get it, they talk about having it. And then there's some rappers that talk past it, like an Eminem or a Jay-Z or, someone older in the game. They don't, you can see a progression where they stop talking about that stuff and start talking about stuff that's humbled them, you know?
What it's hard to see. Do you see it's going to keep going down this route kind of like a flash type of rap, or do you think it might go back to the old ways that seem to be a little bit better in my opinion?
Well, if you think about every era in rap, there's always a flashy time. There's always a flashy time. Like Biggie and Tupac, there was the Busta Rhymes with the leather jackets and the leather, one cut ups, lumberjack stuff. And then you go to 2000s and you got the jerseys and the bandanas and the jeans, and everybody thought, wow, that's ridiculous. And then it just catches on. And then you had the Kanye West wearing pink polos. People thought that was crazy. That's not real hip hop. It's
But she's a gold digger. She's a gold digger, man.
I mean, there's always going to be something, because then the Dirty South came out and people were like, oh my god, why are they saying this over the beats? This sounds horrible. And there's always going to be something that somebody doesn't like, and when there's a yin there's a yang, because you have the mumble rap, but then you have also people like Action Bronson, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Joey Badass. You have these rappers that actually talk the talk and don't just walk for the flaunt of it.
Yeah, it's sad that those guys don't get highlighted a little bit more. They're not super popular when it comes to someone like Post Malone or something of that sort. It's kind of all flashy.
Because we're in the happy drug phase where people just go to the club to feel music. They don't go to listen to it.
So, diving into wrestling a little bit here. Now,
Okay.
what type of wrestling? Yeah, we're taking a little bit of a turn. The aggression's still there, but we're gonna take it on to wrestling now. What do you mean by wrestling? Are you talking about MMA, or are you talking about the WWE?
Professional wrestling, like the WWE. Yeah.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay. What about the WWE? Because a lot of people give it flack for being fake. Is it not fake? I mean, I'm pretty sure it is.
So the storylines are fake, but I mean,
The stunts are real though. That's real shit.
yeah, when the guy's jumping out of the ring onto a table, come on, that's you can't fake that. That's not CGI. That's real.
Well, I've talked to someone that's done that type of professional wrestling before, and he literally talks about, like, he goes to Japan and does the shows there and stuff. And I've talked to him and I've let him know, like, is it that fake? Because I see you guys doing all this stunt performance. He goes, it is a performance, but you can get fucked up. And I said, what do
Yeah.
you mean you can get fucked up? He said, if someone throws you a certain way, you have to know how you're going to land, because if you land on your neck, you could break something. If you land or fall wrong, you have to know what that person's going to do. And sometimes the person gets so caught up into the moment, they don't know when to stop. And they don't know, like, hey, that's not what sometimes they'll throw something in there you never even practice with them. And sometimes that's when passions get real. And the next thing you know, that's when you see a real conflict happen. And I'm like, yeah, but the shit with, like, who's that one guy, Eddie Guerrero, that shoved like a sock up his butt or something, or pulled a sock out of his pants or something and tried to make someone eat it. I was like, what is going on? Come on, we're people.
I mean, there's always gimmicks that happen back. I mean, before you go out, before your music hits, they plan, either you talk about what you're going to do in the ring, or you talk about it inside of the ring, depending on how long your tenure is. But I mean, with wrestling, it's sort of like a male soap opera where, it's the storylines are fake, but you don't know where they're gonna go. I mean, people could speculate, people can have rumors, but it's almost like a show too. Like, oh, this happened and that happened. I didn't know that was gonna happen. And the physicality of the actual sport, because it is a sport, it's a high risk sport. You know, something happens and you're done. That's it. You can't do anything for the rest of your life. I mean, there was guys like Owen Hart who fell from a high spot and he died on a pay-per-view. I mean, you could try to go watch that pay-per-view again, but they just they black it out and they move forward. But it's things like that, you know. It's a high risk thing to do.
It's also a form of entertainment. Like understanding it a little bit from the way you're kind of explaining it is a form of entertainment. I mean, the fact is, I think a lot of the stuff is ridiculous, just the way they kind of overreact on some things,
Yeah.
especially how like when they hit, they stomp the ground, make it seem like they're actually hitting most of the time. But like those jumps and those flips and stuff they do, that's real shit. There's no wires on them. You know, you see Rey
Oh
Mysterio run up
yeah,
to the
no.
line and jump off the rope and do like a complete flip. I couldn't do that shit. I guarantee you, if I went and tried to do that, I'd step, miss, and end up choking myself out on the rope. You
Yeah,
know,
and that those ropes, they don't have any give to them. Like that speed that they're running when they go to the rope, it's more or less that's also a show. They're just running really. I mean, you have some give, but they make it look better than, you know, because it is rough. It's very rough. I've seen it firsthand. It's definitely.
like obviously when they pull out props and stuff and start hitting people with stuff, they're not really going super hard trying to kill anybody. They're doing it for an entertainment aspect. I think it's awesome the fact that that is out there as a form of entertainment to watch, only on the concept of it helps people connect with their kids too. Like most of the time you're seeing, you know, it is crazy. You see the adult super fan out there like, yeah, yeah, woo, like scream. I'm like, whoa. But I understand it. You know, you can get hooked on something, and like it brings up to the term geek. Okay. A
Yeah,
geek is someone that is just passionate about something. It's not being the black rim glasses nerd that you would consider. It's about knowing and being passionate about 100% that you're interested in, which I believe more people need to do more to. More people need to go see a WWE game. More people need to go sit outside and get passionate about nature. You need to find what works for you, and you need to get interested in it. I feel like a lot of people just half-ass nowadays.
that's true. That's absolutely true. I mean, you know, somebody if most people, they don't know what their niche is. They don't know what they like until, you know, that one thing hits, and then you want to buy the merchandise, or you want to buy the books, or look at the TV show, whatever it is. You know, people need to have hobbies. Yes, I agree.
You need to have a certain something that you enjoy doing, even if you suck at it, and keep on building at it. Keep on getting better. Like you can be you know, building IKEA furniture for me is a fucking headache in itself.
That's a headache for anyone.
Yeah,
That's
not my one buddy who loves doing it, even though he sucks at it. He loves building furniture, IKEA furniture, whatever. He loves that whole process. He reads the instructions, which I don't see happen anymore. I don't do. I tossed that out day one. But if he reads the instructions, he goes piece by piece, puts out all of his tools and everything like that, and just starts getting to work. And seeing him work, man, I'm like, looking at him, I'm like, dude, must have Amish in your blood or something. But he enjoys it, you know. And he says you can be good at something and hate it for the rest of your life, or you can suck at something but love it.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you prefer to live? A life of happiness or and fulfillment, or a life of just being comfortable? And I'm like, great way of putting that. And I'm pretty sure you just read that off the fortune cookie after the Chinese food we just had. And he goes, all right, shut up. Give me some credit. But at the same time, you look at things of that, and a lot of people do walk around today like they're wearing a mask. You know, they're acting like WWE superstars. They're playing a fake personality. They're not doing what they should be doing, or acting as who they should be, or who they truly want to become. They're afraid to
Yeah,
show who they
exactly.
are. And I've met, you know, if you look at WWE, any type of film or TV star, anything, sports star, anything, they're all people. I have not been rationalized that enough until I was talking to my cousin who used to be babysitted by Sam Elliott, used to have dinner at his house.
Oh, really?
I'm like, what, Sam fucking Elliott? He said, yeah, man. I'm like, and we're not talking about this. Why are you walking away? He goes, he's just an average dude, and walked away. I'm like, no, he's the guy that narrates my dreams. That and Morgan Freeman. But you give
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations on these people, and you put so much of the world and all your faith into them. They are people. They do fuck up. They do have things that get highlighted in the news, but that's what makes them a person. That's what makes them relatable. I think the idea of being famous, being popular, being all these types of things, the true key to success is about being relatable. The fact you can't get hooked on reading a comic book if they didn't have a start. They didn't give you a background before they got their powers. You know what I mean? It's
That's
about
true.
being relatable. That person was Peter Parker. He was a nerd in school. Okay, already so many people are opened up to feeling out of place in life. Then he got bit by a radioactive spider and got superpowers. Immediately, you love Spider Man because of the fact that he was a person and became something even more with a freak opportunity. A lot of people talk shit on the show and don't even really bring up the real superhero, Static Shock. My boy.
I
You know what I'm talking about, Static Shock.
used to watch that every Saturday.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like up in the morning, get a bowl of Frosted Flakes going. I'm telling you.
Nah, but Status Shock had some. They had some real episodes on that show. I'm not gonna lie.
It was like that show or that movie Martin we all used to watch in school that taught us about Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Like that show highlighted so much stuff. Like it taught life lessons like Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like all those shows, these types of things, they taught lessons. They taught a structure with a funny basis to it. But you see that stuff now and it's adapted to a newer audience. You lost the message.
That's true.
Teen
Yeah.
Titans, for instance,
Oh
lost the
man.
message, dude. I see my little cousin watch it, and I'm like, I can't watch it. I'm sorry. He's like, why? It's the same stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. There's not a deep, meaningful thing anymore. And I'll usually try and fight the other side on everything, but see the other aspect of it. And I understand it adapted to a new audience in a new form because after not running anymore, they decided to revamp it to a newer generation. It's not for me anymore, so I can't get hooked onto it. But it's for my cousin, where he can come to me and ask me things, and I'll tell him the real shit that I learned. You know, it's all about connecting people again. And I think the main thing you have to do is to highlight, like, stop highlighting what you have, stop highlighting what you don't have. Highlight that there's things you need to work on in yourself to improve, and there's things you need to do in your life to improve. And you can make those things, but it's all about being relatable and being connected again. Because once you start to do that and start having real conversations with people about like just talking again, your life's going to be a hell of a lot better, and the world's going to become a little bit better.
I agree. Definitely. I mean, when someone's able to connect with you on a certain type of level that they agree with the same things you do, or maybe they see themselves in the same light as you, then that's something really special and that should be commended.
So, what are some things that you would suggest people do with their life a little bit? Not like kind of ordering them what to do, but it's kind of suggestions, like things they can do to kind of enjoy it a little bit more. Because it seems like everybody's hurting in a way.
I think with me at least, and I can't say this for everyone because I'm not I'm like a special breed of person. I would say the number one thing is to let things go. Don't dwell on things that you can't change, and also don't dwell on things that do not directly affect you. You understand? Like some people, they dwell on things that happen to them that necessarily won't affect them in the next week or two, and they'll just go into a inside themselves deeply and kind of ask, oh, why this, why that. To me, I just, you know what, it happened, let's just move forward. I can't really spend too much time on a certain thing or make
Yeah,
sure everything's always perfect.
I mean, you can't build up the future if you're already focused on the past. You know what I mean? Your
Yeah,
future's not
yeah,
going to be
exactly.
bright if you're dwelling on all the problems. Like, I remember that one woman last year in the grocery store that had 13 items and 12 item or less. I'm like, oh my God, we're still
Yeah,
focused on that.
even stuff like getting a ticket. Like if I were to get a ticket, I don't get mad. I'm just like, all right, I got a ticket, I got to pay it. All right, next thing.
Well, you understood
Because
it's an immediate problem, but people take the immediate problem and they let
yeah,
it overwhelm them and become this giant thing that bugs them for the rest of their lives. Like I got into this argument with this one guy. I'm like, what was his name? I don't remember. It was like a 5-minute interaction. And I'm like, when was that? Oh, that was in 2000. It's like, bruh, it's been 19 years. You're still
yeah,
holding on to that?
like some people get mad if somebody, like goes into their lane and while driving without a turn signal, people freak out, be like, "Ah, oh, what the fuck?" And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna get mad. Look, this just does not concern me. Let them do whatever they want. I'm just not. It's little things like that that get people in trouble, that get people frustrated. Things happen. No, I just want to live my life carefree, happy, no stress.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to be who you want to become, not
Yeah,
focus on
exactly.
the problems that are going on. I mean, it's if you focus too much on the problems, you're not creating a better future for yourself.
That's exactly true. If you're dwelling on yesterday, tomorrow will never come.
Dude, it was great talking to you, man. I want to give you a minute here at the end to be able to kind of put out your podcast so people can follow you.
All right, yeah, man. Yo, yeah, thanks for having me. On Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and any place you can hear a podcast, it's the Dopeish Network. We have 4 shows: the hip hop podcast, the wrestling podcast, Heroes and Villains, and actually 5. Sorry, the film and TV podcast, and then the Dopeish one, which is me just talking miscellaneous stuff. And if you guys are Star Wars fans, I suggest you listen to my other podcast, Archives of the Force, where we dive into Star Wars, everything Star Wars. We do commentary tracks for episodes like Clone Wars or Rebels, and we give you like 10-minute podcast about like Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We give like character bios and bios of things that are in the Star Wars universe. Yep.
Well, you have your hand in many cookie jars, I see.
Yeah,
Many different outlets, but if anything can take away one thing from this podcast, and I think we both can agree on, is the fact that Star Wars is better than Star Trek.
that's true. That's absolutely true.
That's going to piss off so many people. So many people are like, but Star Trek's older. Well, you know what? My TV's old, but I also get a new one. So
Star Trek's older by like 13 years, but when Star Wars came out, it perfected film. So Star Trek really can't say
when
that.
you think of an alien blaster, you think of the little blaster pistol from Star Wars. So
Exactly. That's no one thinks of a phaser.
And Yoda said it best: "Do or no, do not. There is no try."
Exactly.
I spent too much time looking at that motivational poster in detention. It didn't motivate me at all to do anything. I just kept on not trying. But he was right.
They're just placeholders.
Exactly. They're just there. Take up space. Well, thanks for being on this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.